it's not our fault. But this situation is my fault. I put myself here. This and that. I keep doing this. I keep all of these things that keep coming to mind that distract us from the truth. This is really the important thing. Is what the meditation was about. The truth of the matter is, I have stepped. And again, this is not something to feel guilty about, but this is the actual thing that happened. I have stepped away from God in my mind. It cannot happen in reality. Because if God is all there is and nothing else is, there's no place to step. There's no place to go. Because it's all God. I can't leave God if it's all God. But in my mind, I think that I did. So, what has happened, and we talked about this last week, and of course that whole thing generates all this guilt about, I've slapped God across the face. I mean, all this, it's the height of egotism to be thinking about this. I have attacked God. I have, I left God. I've rebelled against God, I attacked God, and it goes all the way to, and don't think this thought isn't there, I killed God. Because I'm talking about in the ego's thought system. And took his place. How many times have we heard it said? You're playing God. I mean, somebody else trying to make you feel guilty, but this is what's happening in the mind, right? If God is all there is, we can't have left. We're essential. So here's the thing. The belief system has to be changed. And the only way the belief system can be changed is to begin to change the thoughts. To begin to change the thoughts. First, by the way, action has to come first. I actually have to not act. I have to not act on the feeling. I have to not act on it. I mean, in a negative way is what I'm saying. That's like the beginning. It's just like when somebody wants to get clean. The first thing is don't pick up the first one. So this physical part of this is important that I'm going to say I have to not act on it. And if I do, then to quickly make the admission that I did and to make a decision, okay, that's the thing that I don't want to do. And when I can get some, and the problem with it is that for a period of time, I can just hold on with both hands, grit my teeth, and not do the thing. But if that's all I do, if I stop there, pretty soon, I will be overcome by the character defects in that ego thought system, and I will explode into some kind of stupid action. So I begin with abstinence, I begin with not doing the thing, but then I have to move to thought. I have to move to thinking. I have to move to, as I'm saying, change my thinking. So the thought that triggered the feeling has to be changed. I have to decide for another thought. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. When I was first starting to do this practice, I would carry around a list of thoughts in my pocket. Because really, when you start to examine your thinking, you will find that there aren't that many many different negative thoughts that you're having. They're all pretty similar. So what I needed was an opposite. I needed an opposite, and some people call this positive affirmation. And it actually works at the beginning of this process to substitute a positive thought for the negative one. I can't tell you which ones you need to have, but you get the idea. To substitute and say, I don't want this thought anymore. I want this thought. Now, after a while, you begin to realize that you don't need to actually do this however you want. But what happened to me was I realized that I didn't need to figure it out what the thought substitute should be, because I have an inner guide who is leading me to the truth. So then instead of me taking out and having a positive thought to replace it, as soon as I realized from the feeling that I had this bad thought, I asked Spirit, give me another thought. There's humility in this that really cannot be underestimated. The humility of this, see, here's the difference is I'm not saying in any of this, I'm just going to tell you, on my own, by myself, in my ego thinking, I cannot figure out how to solve this problem. My ego tells me that it can figure out how to solve the problem. But by myself, I cannot solve the problem. No matter what kind of devices I come up with. I can't, because the problem is being by myself. That's the bottom line problem. So then, the humility is to say, I can't do this by myself, I need help. And to ask for the help. And to directly ask this inner guide for help. I don't want this thought, please. I do not want this thought. Give me the right thought. Give me the exchange. Now, I also want to point out that I am not talking about you being possessed by some otherworldly spirit. This inner guide that you're speaking to is actually your own best self. It's actually the divine within you. So it's not like you're looking outside yourself, because that's always been the problem in the first place, looking for some kind of help from outside to come in and fill this gap on the inside. The help is on the inside. So here's a couple things that I know. Money is not the problem. It's not the answer either. Food is not the problem. It's not the answer either. Sex is not the problem. And it's not the answer either. The problem is our thinking that we are alone. And the answer is getting with this inner guide that is part of and our connection to God. That's always going to be the answer. And the problem is never going to change. The problem is never going to change. The answer is never going to change. We're going to do all sort of crazy things. We're going to do the self-help thing of the month to try to fix this. Somebody's got a formula to tell us this, but what it all comes down to, and what every one that's valid, every single one of these disciplines that is valid, is talking about inner healing. There is no inner healing. There will be no outer healing. We will continue to live this life of chaos. We change our belief system, first of all, by not acting on the stupid stuff. And it's okay. Again, I don't say this to generate more guilt. I got plenty of guilt. We got plenty of guilt to go around. We got shared guilt. We got individual guilt. I say this when I say stupid stuff. I mean just to recognize that's stupid. Stop doing it. Now, don't feel bad about it. Just to say, let's just stop doing that. Let's stop doing it. But it's interesting that what we find is that once we get in the habit of stopping before we do the thing that we know we're going to regret, and we begin to bring these other things in where we're getting guidance and asking for guidance, what we find is that less and less are we tempted to do the stupid thing. But the other thing we find is when we decide for the stupid thing, pretty soon we'll find it easier and easier to do the stupid thing. Here's what I know. There's all sort of talk out there about what's about God's will, and I know sometimes it seems overwhelming and like it must be a life of some kind of monastic life of of denial, and but God's will is for happiness. God's will is for joy. God's will is for creation. God's will is for good. That's where the word comes from, goodwill. God's will is for good. God's will is goodwill. So God's will is for our peace and joy and happiness. And the only way that we can participate in it is to share it. So this is what happens when we begin to believe differently. When we begin to believe this core belief that I'm alone. the core belief that I'm alone, when it starts to change, when we actually start to believe that we're not alone. First, we get this intellectual idea that I'm not alone, I'm with God all the time, because I can accept this, intellectually I can accept this idea that I live and move and have my being inside God, so I can't really be alone, intellectually. Emotionally, it's a little harder. It takes time to start changing it. But so then I change this idea from I'm alone in a dangerous world to I am in God. And whatever, and see, this is the other thing that I've got to realize, this bad things are going wrong with the body over time. I mean, the body is deteriorating, and this is like the best evidence, right, that you're alone in a dangerous world. Your body's falling apart over time. Some of you are young enough yet you don't even think about this. But it's evidence, right? But you are not a body. You're not a body. You are spirit, and you dwell within God, and that is eternal. And so when these ideas start to seep in, and I stop worrying about the condition of my body, and this is not to say that I abuse my body. This is not to say that I deny my body what it needs. I'm not because see, that's just the opposite of the other problem. I don't want to do that. Just what I want to do is I want to take care of the body just like it's a matter of fact thing. Just take care of the body. It's right now you seem to be in a body. Take care of it. Good idea. But don't be attached to it, because no matter how well you take care of it, eventually it's going to fall apart. I know you think you're the only one who it's not going to fall apart for, but just wait. You'll see. God's will for us is happiness, peace, and joy. I'm asking Spirit, show me the truth here. Show me when I'm in the midst of conflict. Show me when it seems like there's not enough money to go around. Show me when my body seems to be sick. Show me when my loved one seems to be sick. When my loved one seems to be dying. Show me the truth of it. The truth of it is that God is. That God is all there is. Nothing else is. There is no death. There is no sickness. Only in this material world that we have made. Not in God. Not in the kingdom of heaven. Which is, well, we get this idea in mind. That's where we want to go. We want to go to the kingdom of heaven. What I would want to say here as I close is, you're already in the kingdom of heaven. We are in the kingdom of heaven. We are together with God right now. For some weird reason, we're just ignoring it. For some weird reason, we are distracting ourselves with all of these mundane things in the world. I think as we change the belief system more and more, we become more aware, and all of a sudden one day, you're going to turn sideways and disappear. Mm-hmm. People will go, where'd Gary go? You just got happy. You got happy. It turned sideways and disappeared. Some of us hang around. This Gary just hangs around. He hangs around to help us go along the way. What the Buddhists call it the bodhisattva, right? Share God's will for happiness. When we share the light of creation with someone else, we forget that we're alone. We share the light of creation with someone else. We come together in the light of creation. That's enough. Thank you.